All right, good morning, guys. It is Nick Mulbauer here, and looky here, we got our first crappie. Nice big old black crappie. Check that out. That is what I am talking about. We'll get that big fella back, probably like a 12-incher, 12 and a half maybe. Get him back, unhook him. We'll talk about it in 1 second here. Give me one moment. I'm kind of hung up. I was not ready for that. I was going up to the wood here to pull out a snag on my jig, and right then, of course, my bobber gets hit, which is pretty sweet because that means these fish are not being easily disturbed if they're biting as I'm rolling up to the cover. So what I've already done this morning is I have used my hummingbird down in side imaging to find the brush pile, and after I did that, I unplugged my hummingbird and I plugged in my ice flasher so that I could get a better idea of the down imaging. I just like how this reads the water column better. It gives me a better picture of how many limbs are down there, and it just paints a better picture for me. So that's why I switched over to this. It just kind of helps me map out an actual brush pile. The only downside to it is I cannot stay away from the brush pile. I have to be right over that brush pile to be able to effectively paint a picture of what that looks like under the water. I'm just doing what I usually do. I am just trying to be extra patient here today, and I am just drifting a bobber and a minnow over that brush pile. I'm trying to throw into some of the thicker parts of it. I have my marker buoy out there that kind of marks, you know, the general area of that brush pile. And then I'm also casting a 32nd ounce jig, just a Bobby Garland plastic on there. And we're just gonna sit on this brush pile for a while before the sun gets real high, and hopefully we can pull another one like that first one out, because that was a dandy crappie. That's exactly what I came here for. This place is very hit or miss. Sometimes you come out here and you catch a bunch of dinks, sometimes you come out here and get absolutely skunked, and sometimes you come out here and you catch some of the biggest crappie I've ever caught. So we're out here this morning, gonna try to catch one or two more. That would make my day. Stay tuned, hopefully we can get into one or two more and have ourselves a good old morning of fishing. Here we go, guys. Here's crappie number 2. I think we're in for a pretty good day in the event I don't lose him. That's what I'm talking about, guys. I think we're lucky today. We got the full moon setting and we got some big crappie. When I rolled up, I was feeling pretty optimistic, because what I noticed when I was rolling out here to this brush pile was there was a ton of suspended fish, and every time I've come out here and I've marked a ton of fish suspending, I usually catch the better quality black crappie. Sometimes you catch, you know, good white crappie out here, but in the last year or so it's been black. Crappie fishing is kind of one of those kinds of fishing where electronics just pay dividends, guys. Like, you know, I'm not a huge electronics guy. I like to have it on there when I'm bass fishing just for the sake of knowing the depth at all times. I mean, I just use this to find the cover, and once I've found the cover, I just try to fish it really thoroughly and pick apart those brush piles. Those fish might be set up on it differently, or you just throw in just the right spot and they'll just hit in this one 3x3 spot, which is kind of what they're doing today, it seems. So you just got to really key in on those crappie, and the most important thing about crappie fishing is just being very patient. It is not the aggressive fishing. I do bass fishing when you're pitching jigs into trees and just ripping bass out. This crappie fishing is a game of patience, just patience. Marking cover and having the patience to figure them out. Alright guys, he wanted me to come up to him again apparently. These crappie like to bite when I'm pulling snags out. Crappie number 3, guys. I need to start snagging my jig more, because that is provoking these fish to bite. Apparently that is the second time this morning. I've been fan casting as a search mechanism for these crappie is basically what I'm doing, but I'm getting hung up every now and then doing that. And this is the second time. I've snagged twice searching for these crappie, and both times I get a bite on the minnow right when that happens. So Weird coincidence, but look at the size of these crappie, guys. They are just wonderful. Just, you couldn't ask for more than that. I can't even eat these things because I don't catch the crappie this big often enough with the methods I use. So we'll get that one back. Beautiful fish. While I'm waiting for another crappie to bite, I kind of wanted to mention a little bit more about my process and why I'm here today. We did have a full moon last night and it was super bright. There was not a cloud in the sky, so I figured that would potentially have these crappie and other species feeding all night long. So I wanted to get here before the sun even rose, which I did. It's not come over the hill yet, but I figured those fish might be feeding all night, and in my head I thought maybe I could get the tail end of their night feeding if that's what they were doing. It's all speculation for me, but that's what I had in my head. I thought maybe they'd be feeding all night and maybe I could get in on the back end of that, fishing this pile of brush. I also wanted to get out here before the wind picked up too much. It's supposed to get up to 14 mile an hour today, and this wind speed, 6-7 mile an hour, is just about ideal because what we have is just a bit of chop on the water, which what that does is it camouflages me. If there's no chop on the water, they'll hear me more, they'll hear me better, and it also imparts action on that bobber and that minnow down there. I'm not jigging or anything, I'm just throwing out that bobber and I'm just letting it sit there. Every now and then I reel up a little bit just to cover a little bit of ground, but for the most part I'm just casting it out and just letting it sit. So while I'm reeling in here, we'll talk a bit about my setup. I have an ultralight rod, ultralight reel, Fluger spinning reel, and all I'm doing is what you guys have known about 1,000 times before, is I'm just running a slip bobber, which allows me to set the depth. I have monofilament line because I'm fishing with a bobber and I want that line to float. If it was fluorocarbon, all that line would sink and I'd have to reel up and pick up all that line that has sunk. All I have on is a size 6 Aberdeen gold hook, standard, and a little piece of split shot that just kind of helps that bobber set in place. It's one of the best, most effective ways to catch crappie, and it has been for years. We're just gonna wait for a crappie to happen upon that minnow, and hopefully he'll gobble it up and I'll be able to have a successful hook set and reel in another decent one, because that's a lot of fun, guys. It's been a lot of fun already this morning. There we go. Another good one, guys. Gotta love it when they pull drag like that. He took down that minnow. See that, guys? We're gonna have to cut the line on him. Look at how far down that hook is, guys. That's in his belly. See that? Belly hooked. That's what you want, though. That means they're eating, guys. That's some feeding stuff. He did not trail that minnow. He was all about eating it. So we'll get him unstuck, then we'll get him back. And there's not much more to talk about, guys. The minnow and the bobber is the ticket, you know? Very effective, very effective. Oh, that was so awesome, guys. Dropped right to this fish. Changed colors. I moved up on this pile. I'm trying to be stealthy. I wasn't getting bit with the minnow anymore. That was kind of slowing down. So what I did was I eased up on the pile and I dropped this chartreuse and black Bobby Garland plastic to the brush pile, and that fish hit it on the fall, guys. On the fall, that fish hit it. That's probably one of the larger ones of the day. I mean, they're all really nice fish, but dang, that's fun when you just get clobbered right first drop onto the pile. We're gonna let that one go again. But yeah, there might be something to it, vertical jigging. I was just gonna vertical jig that pile just right before I took off and tried another brush pile. So we'll stay on this pile for a bit. Oh, I'm getting hit again over there too. Just got hit. There we go. Maybe we can go 2 for 2 here. Be patient. See what happens. There we go. Still playing with it. We'll lift up real slow. There's another one, guys. Feels like another good one too. Talk about disturbing the pile, huh? We'll take it though, guys. Look at that, 2 for 2. Get this fella unhooked now. Hey guys, how about that? Another one, guys. That is just the best. Come on. It's so fun, folks. I'm gonna get him released. Another beautiful fish. And like I mentioned, I am just gonna ease up on this brush pile before I take off. I wanna go vertical jig them. And what I've been doing is I've been fan casting and just letting that minnow do its job, staying off the pile as to not disturb the fish that were on that pile. That's the last thing you want to do. But it was starting to slow down. So what I'm going to do is I'm easing up on that brush pile real quiet as I can be. I'm just going to vertical jig them, just drop right to that brush. When I mark that brush on my flasher, we'll see that cover come in. They'll start to register. Right there it comes. There it is. Here we go. See how thick that stuff is? We're just gonna drop right down to them. I'm about 4 feet down. So I'll pull 1, 2, 3, 4. That should be down far enough. There we go. Just smash crappie thump, guys. Found the combination, I think. They like that chartreuse. This water is very dirty, so my jig is already gone. It's like 4 inches of clarity. So I got black with a chartreuse swim bait. High contrast, guys. I'm gonna drop back down to him again. Try to feel that crappie thump. Hey guys, I just got in my car and decided to call it a day. And I gotta tell you, I'm feeling pretty blessed right now. That was a really good day of crappie fishing. For our area, catching a number of quality fish like that consistently, I can count on, 2 hands how many times I've done that in my life. I mean, I've caught a lot of crappie, but to have the numbers of quality fish, that just doesn't happen very often. So I'm feeling really good about this trip. It was so much fun, and I'm not ready to get off the water. Ultimately, the wind just blew me off. I mean, I think the wind is 13 miles an hour, and I just can't compete with it. I don't have an anchor on my kayak. I have one at home, but I don't even think it would have kept me from blowing away. There's nothing really for my anchor to dig into out on this body of water. It's just a giant mud flat. It's a giant sand flat. The whole thing is like 6 feet deep, so there's just nothing for an anchor to even bite into. So I think even if I had an anchor, I would have just been drifting anyways. So time to get off, count your blessings. It was so much fun. But at the same time, I think the wind, in addition to the dirty water, is kind of what had those fish biting. I really do. I think those 2 factors kept me hidden. As much as the wind is a nuisance, it's also what I think made those crappie bite. Funny enough, same deal goes for brush piles. It's so frustrating getting hung up in that brush from time to time, but the reason those crappie are even there is because of the brush. So you just got to kind of take the good with the bad of the crappie fishing. But crappie, more than most fish, they have me scratching my head sometimes. Other species of fish I can usually figure out, but days that I cannot get crappie to bite, I am just scratching my head like, where are these fish? So it was really fun and refreshing getting out and having a really good crappie bite and getting on that. Like I said, it's a blessing. There's only so many things that you can try to do to up your odds, but the way fishing is, all fishing is, there's a lot of elements that are just out of your control, and you think you know what you're doing, and right when you're at your best, that's when you get kicked in the face and have your teeth knocked in, and you feel like you have no clue what you're doing again. So, but that's what keeps you wanting to go back for more. That's what makes fishing really fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed the trip. I hope you learned something. I hope it's engaging. I think I need to work on my engagement, but we'll get there. We'll get there. Just keep tuning in, and I'm gonna try to keep making these videos better and better. So y'all take care. Have a good rest of the weekend, and I will see you guys on the water next time. See you guys.